Mhm.
So we have Bret Packard from the USA, as I was talking to you about. And Bret has joined us today. Let me tell you a little about him. He is, according to his profile, he's a crisis prevention and management expert. But we'll find out a lot of other things from Bret, because he's a very interesting personality, and I've got connected to him recently. So welcome, Bret, to TBCIN TV in Dubai to get to know you better.
It's a pleasure, Nadeem, and thank you for having me on the program. I'm really excited to be on TBC TV, and you're living in one of my favorite places of the world. I actually did live in Dubai, my wife and I, for a few years, so absolutely love it and honored to be your guest today.
Thanks a lot, and thank you for your time. Let me start by asking you particularly, Bret, about your profession right now, what you're involved into, this crisis prevention and management for businesses, I believe. So how does it go about for our viewers? They would like to know a little bit about it. Do you help companies and businesses during crisis, or is it a long-term association with them?
Yeah, basically what I do, it's a great question, Nadeem, and thanks. So basically what I do is I'll give advice to firms and CEOs, leaders, executives about, first of all, how to prevent a crisis, right? There's a lot of, the thing about a crisis is it can be prevented. And unfortunately, when a crisis does hit, then it has to be managed. So I can handle both parts. I had developed, a lot of people can relate to this. I had developed a reputation in my professional career and it was not by design, and don't tell anybody, because I'm always letting everybody know that we should design our life, right? And then follow that blueprint. But some things in life, as you know, it's not linear, right?
Yeah.
And so with me, what happened is that, not by intention, but just through performance and situations, I developed a reputation of somebody that would come in and clean up part of the company
as a troubleshooter.
That had a problem.
As a
troubleshooter, and to turn around small businesses, very large businesses. I did a lot of work in Southern Africa when the price of copper in 2010, 2009, 2010, when the price of copper plunged, their portfolio, one of the loan portfolios had an issue. So I got called down to one of the countries in Southern Africa to help turn around that, and we did that. And there were several other cases. Worked with many countries in the Middle East off the back of the global financial crisis in my career in banking, on how to make sure that we future-proof businesses for a potential crisis in the future, and then also get them out of the current crisis. So I just, not by design, by situation, get thrown in. I've been thrown into businesses in Asia that were not profitable, subscale, and by the time I left, they were obviously profitable and had turned around. So just kind of my reputation. So I actually learned this, Nadeem, in Japan. Spent 6 years in Japan running distribution and wealth management for a very large, several $100 million business, number one foreign currency market share in the country. At that time, Japan was the number 2 economy in the world, ahead of China, and now China's surpassed Japan, as you would know. But I learned in Japan, we built a proposition and a business from scratch when the local wealth management market was in precipitous decline. You can look at the charts of the Nikkei in Japan, and our business just soared. And there's all different things, all different types of things that we did to make that a situation. But that taught me and the hundreds of people that I led that we could actually, it didn't matter what the economic environment was, we could find solutions to help people, not just when times are good, but when times are bad. And so that just kind of, it's a long-winded answer to your question, Nadeem, but it just kind of, for some reason, I didn't really chase it, but I guess it was chasing me, crisis.
Yeah.
And so I just have a mindset that a crisis is actually an opportunity. And so the pandemic is the current crisis, right? And so, this is an opportunity for a lot of people and businesses to actually accelerate their growth instead of just deal with the pandemic.
What we have witnessed with many businesses, but the period you were in Japan, was it the global financial crisis period, the 2008, 2009?
No, it was actually no, and when I talk about crisis in Japan, they've been having their own crisis for decades. If you look at any aspect of the Japanese economy, except for maybe recent years, it's been in dire straits, deflation, just precipitous market volatility. But I was there in Japan during the early 2000s to the mid 2000s. But the global financial crisis, we could talk about that. I was in London in one of the hearts of where the pounding took place. And I was running a big part of a very big business in London when the GFC hit. And that crisis was unbelievable. And I can tell you, and I can offer some advice to some viewers right now, when a crisis that big hits, what we did, we had prepared ourselves culturally. We could talk about culture during this discussion as well. I'd love to talk about that. Where when the global financial crisis hit, Nadeem, we knew what to do. All of our thousands of people, we knew what to do. And that was a very simple formula. It was to get close and stay close to customers, because we understood that when the tide rises, everybody does well. But when the tide falls, those people that do well are the resilient people that can actually be right by holding the hand of the customer, and they know exactly what to do. So we called a couple million customers, and we just let them know that, hey, we're going to be with you through this crisis. By the way, 9/11 was the same way. I was in Japan when 9/11 happened. Same thing. Just get close and stay close to customers. And guess what? You emerge from the crisis stronger, actually, however you measure it. Market share, customer loyalty, net promoter score, profits. You emerge from this crisis with this aggressive attitude of not hiding, but getting out there proactively with customers, and you emerge stronger. So that's my advice to everybody watching this.
My first question would be, would such a preparation be applicable for all business types, or particularly those that offer services to customers? I mean, there is a huge manufacturing business sector as well. So would this way apply to all businesses, in your opinion?
I think that first of all, let me just be really clear that I don't want to oversimplify it. That every crisis is different, has different characteristics, and I think you raise a good point. So I would say that my simple formula of getting close and staying close does not apply to all industries, but I can tell you what does apply to all industries, including the ones you mentioned, manufacturing, is the mindset of leadership. And that is that number one is to prepare your company culture for volatility. Okay, and that applies anywhere. So manufacturing or banking or you name it, consulting services, whatever. Prepare it for a crisis. Assume that the landscape is going to change, and I think we've seen that happen, right, repeatedly. That's number one. Number two is to be aggressive with whatever you want to do. When the crisis happens, what most people do, a lot of people, they panic, right? And the media certainly helps people panic
Yes.
when that happens. So that gets in the heads of your employees. So you've got the right culture, and you can maintain an aggressive and offensive instead of a defensive attitude towards the crisis. The third piece of advice is that it is limited in scope and duration, so it can be dealt with. Okay, so it's not the type of thing that, you know, the world didn't end in any of these crises, and hopefully won't. Okay, but I think that mindset and that hope and belief, Nadeem, that there's a better future when you get through the crisis, and if you can emerge from that crisis stronger, then everybody's better off. So to me, hopefully that answered your question. That would apply to any business.
It gave actually it gave a new perspective as well, because I was basically thinking in terms only of finances, but you touched upon the mindset and the cultural issue in preparation for a crisis, which is very valid, because you need to have your people, the people working for you, also have the same mindset, be in readiness for to face, not to panic under a crisis situation when the crisis hits. That's a very valid and interesting point, Bret. Thank you very much. And I see the connection. I see the connection now of your banking background into this crisis management and prevention area. So you normally would focus on the financial preparation.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. I've helped a lot of people with a lot of different things. You know, there's a big issue now going on with mental health, right? And the pandemic. So I'll just give you something that's not related to finances, which is there's going to be a few of us that get together on Friday, actually, and we're going to do a live stream on we're going to offer some suggestions on how to cope with the stresses and possible burnout of people working from home under the pandemic, right? And again, it's a similar mindset, right? It's not, you know, people are sitting for hours in front of a computer, and they're actually, many people in many different parts of the world are actually working longer now than they did when they were going into the office before the pandemic, right? So this is another way that we can help. I'm not saying that it's a crisis right now, but I am saying that for some people, the boiling point, it's reaching the boiling point because it's been a couple of years now. And so I help people with matters like that, just general advice and concepts. There's one thing I do want to let you and the viewers know is that back in 1988, I had the pleasure of going to a seminar by Jim Rohn. You ever heard of Jim Rohn?
No.
So Jim Rohn is Tony Robbins' mentor.
Okay.
Yeah. And he's deceased, but anyway, one of Jim Rohn's recommendations was, and I was just a young kid, right, Nadeem? So I'm sitting there taking notes, and he said, keep a diary, keep a journal. And so you know what I did? Just like Forrest Gump, I kept a journal for 30 years.
Oh.
And so I would just imagine, and this is not my concept, right? But it's a concept that I learned from somebody that I actually listened to, and in hindsight, it turned out to be a great idea. So you go through today and you learn a concept, write it down, right? Then tomorrow you do the same thing, you know. And then when you add it up, I got 90 books, you know, with concepts. That's the only library I ever need, right?
Wow. Yeah.
I've got experiences. I'll have people call me and say, hey, Bret, did you work with John Doe or Mary Jane? And if you did, could you give me a read on that person? And you know, I can do it, right? You know, it doesn't
Wow.
It doesn't really matter. But the point is so I recommend that to everybody. And if you haven't done it, you can start it now, because it's a great library for the future, not only for you, but for those that we leave behind, right, in the future. So I think that the ability to take a concept, and I'm very good at this, that I learned, and I write about them every day. You can follow me on LinkedIn. You've seen them. Today I wrote about a great leader that I worked for that always said, put the customer first with everything we do. And that set the tone for a culture that got us through 9/11, that culture, and the rocky economy that was ahead. So there's a lot of things that we all learn every day, but the question is, do we retain them? And the next question is, can we apply them in the future and give them to somebody that needs help?
Yeah. And actually, when you go through these trainings, or you listen to people, even if you pick up one important or one solid point and you apply it, that one point is heavier than a lot of other things that you just listen to, and
isn't it?
It goes out of the other ears. So thanks,
right.
Bret. That was very informative. And talking about your recent posts, I've seen you talk a lot about kindness, and I believe as well what you have said in your messages, And just to add to what you have written a lot on kindness in the last few days, I believe kindness is highly misunderstood as well. It's one of the most misunderstood acts, human acts. Why? Because it's immediately associated with weakness. If you're kind to someone, normally the general perception is that this person is weak in some way. So what do you have to say about applying kindness in our daily lives and in our professional lives?
Nadeem, I'm so glad that you raised this point, because so I'll answer your question. Genuine kindness through words and actions is so important, right? And how could you, how in the world can somebody be angry at something, or jealous of something, or have some sort of aggressiveness towards something and still be kind? I have not been able to figure that one out, Nadeem. So the point is, there's a lot of people that might associate kindness with weakness. In my opinion, those people making that association are either frustrated, angry, resentful, or something. They have the problem with this. That's my own view, and there will be, of course, they would argue with that, right? That's my own view, because I don't see how genuine kindness can exist with these aggressive attitudes. I just don't see it. I've lived all over the world, and frankly, it's just one of those beliefs that will agree to disagree if somebody wants to argue with me on it. I just believe that being nice to people and showing kindness, because we're all humans, right? We're all different, but we're all humans at the end of the day. And being very inclusive with who we hire, who we surround ourselves with, our friends, and having a very, I spent most of my adult life as living in foreign countries, foreign to me, where I had the mindset, I'm a guest and I'm the minority in this country. So why am I here? I'm here to bring a skill or a trade that can benefit a local person. And then I can move on to, do something, go to the next country and do that as well. And I had the opportunity to work for 30 years across 30 countries. That's a lot of cultures. And inclusive diversity of mindset, gender, it doesn't matter. Everything that has to do with diversity and kindness, they go hand in hand, in my opinion. Absolutely. Diversity and kindness, but kindness and anger, they don't mix well.
Absolutely. Let me just end that topic about kindness with two things I have in mind. One is that, it It doesn't, you don't have to pay for being kind, number one. And the second thing, more important, is that being kind when you are in a position to be more aggressive to a person is more effective in situations. I mean, if you're a boss and someone, your employee does something wrong, and you're still kind with them, whereas you could show your power at that time. Being kind at that time is much more important than in normal circumstances. Right?
I think you're right, Nadeem. And yeah, you're right. And if I could just extend that a bit, that anybody in business has had to let go of people for performance or wrongdoing, or, you know, something. Everybody has. And it's the kind of thing that a lot of people don't like to talk about. I'll talk about it because I'm hoping others can benefit from it, because there are a lot of leaders out there that when they let go or fire somebody, they could probably do a much better job. And I always had the belief, and I was fortunate to work for some great leaders, okay, who taught me this early on, that, you know, let's say somebody does something really wrong and they have to be let go. Okay, a great leader, Nadeem, will find a way to help that person get another job so they can feed their family. Okay, they won't just say, go talk to HR, get out of here. I don't want to see you. You know, they will provide. And what specifically would that mean? Okay, we'll work with you to help get your CV, your resume updated. We'll work with you on a cover letter. We'll work with you to find the right recruiting agency. We will properly document your file per the legal standards in the country, but we're not going to overdo it.
Help you in networking.
We're going to help you.
Yeah.
That's right. Help you with networking. Exactly. That's right. So I think you get the point, and I'm sure the viewers do as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now let me move to your company. I've seen the Packard network. Tell us a little about that.
Yeah, it will. You know, the Packard network is simply a platform, which is my network on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram's really tiny. But anyway, mainly LinkedIn. It's a platform where I bring people that I know or I've met to a similar situation that you and I are in right now, where I'll go live with them once a week, and we'll talk about how they design their success. Okay. And we'll talk about how they build their faith and confidence, because I want my viewers, which it won't be too long before that number hits 1 million. So I just really started getting aggressive on this. I mean, I've been doing the Packard Network for 9 or 10 months, but I just really started getting aggressive, and I met you as part of that about 12 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of time, and I want these people that I'm putting on here, which are a very diverse set of people. I've only had 2 Americans on the program, and these 2 Americans are spectacular women. I've had people from all over. I had a great woman from Pakistan, from your country actually, who is the the chief human resources officer for the National Bank of Pakistan, on here as well. We had 24,000 people watch that program. Great. And she talked about how her father in Pakistan had conditioned her to be a successful business person, and it was an amazing story. I've had people from all over, and this week on Thursday, I'll have somebody from that's in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. She'll be on the program. We'll be talking about that. So it's really a platform, Nadeem, in short, to elevate great people that with the hope of spreading their kindness and how they were able to do what they have been able to do in their career. Absolutely. So that other people can pick up on it. And that's really the intention of it as well. So that's great. With my concepts from 30 years of note taking, I'm hoping that it will, this is the year of impact. That's my mission. Everybody said, what's your word for on all the platforms. What's your word for 2022? Mine is impact. And so this is what I'm going to do. Will it make an impact? I'm confident that it will. How many people? I don't know. It doesn't really matter. But if it helps one person,
Absolutely.
it's a success.
That's what I believe as well, Bret.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And maybe you could share the link for the next week's broadcast with me,
Okay.
and we could add it to our post for this interview.
Oh, thank you.
It will help people
great.
who are interested to join in with you. Okay.
Fantastic. I'll do that.
Bret, what's your immediate future plan? I see that you are a lot into helping people. So in what ways are you looking forward to help people, during this time or in future? What's your plan right now?
Yeah, my specific plan is to help firms, individuals at the executive level, middle management, and even individuals that are struggling right now in the pandemic era economy, right? It's an opportunity. And I think I explained why early in the program, that it's a mindset thing, but I already know, Nadeem, it's an opportunity. But the question is, do they? And so that's my target. It's a very broad target, and it's I'm not doing this and charging people a fee to do it. What I'm doing is, my number one priority in my life right now is supporting my wife, taking care of her 90-plus-year-old mother. Okay. And we're making it possible for her to live in her home. And that's number one. This thing that you and I are talking about is number two right now. And maybe someday it'll become number one. But I know that I've got the concepts and the knowledge and the confidence to help people from all over the world. And so it's not a number that I'll give you, but it is something that I show up every day on here, and I show up every week live on the platform. I'll show up with programs like this with you. They're getting more and more of those. And that's my mission, basically. And I'm 57 years old, okay? The second 50 years of my life, I'm giving back. The first 50, I was not a taker. I was actually a giver, but I acquired a lot of knowledge and wisdom, right? Experience, you name it. And now I'm in a position where financially it's okay. So now I'm in a position where I can give back this knowledge to others, and I want people to have a fair shot at success, right? And if I can help them, I help a lot of people, Nadeem, save 5 to 10 years with a concept, right? There was a woman in South Korea, that saw a program I did last year with a great person named Webster Melito. He's Zambian, and he lives in Johannesburg, South Africa now. He was telling the story about how to bust through middle management blockers in the beverage industry. So it was not banking, right? And this woman saw our program, and it was a program similar to what you and I are doing right now. And he gave a couple of concepts on what he does. And we talked about a garden, a beautiful garden, and weeds, and how important it is to get those weeds out of the garden so that they don't eat the healthy crop that you're attempting to grow, right? And this woman, who I don't even know, never met her. She works for a big conglomerate in one of the big companies in Korea, South Korea.
Yeah.
She and for those watching this program, South Korea is full. Unions are incredibly powerful in that country. I mean, they're one of the most powerful unionized countries, South Korea. She is a minority. She's a woman working in that environment with union. She's got a bunch of all men working for her, and they don't, I'm not going to say they bully her, but they just give her a really hard time, and they hide behind the union. She's in management. She picked up some concepts from Webster, and I added a few as well. and she went and took on the union. And did it change the company? No, but it made her life a heck of a lot easier. She doesn't cry at night anymore. So to me, Nadeem, it's like you spoke earlier, you and I agree on this. If we help one person, it's a big win, right?
Yeah.
And so when that, and I could tell countless other stories like that where people have been given hope from, I had a person from Japan on here who talked about when you make a mistake, apologize, learn from it, and forget it. And a woman from the Middle East heard this and wrote me, and again, I don't even know this woman, right? She wrote me and said, I've been struggling. She was feeling guilty for so long over making a mistake about something. And, it's like sometimes it helps to just hear somebody with a different perspective say that. And that's really what the Packard Network's all about.
Absolutely. That's great to hear. And I'm sure there will be many people, benefiting a lot. And from what you have said, Bret, that's great to hear. And I thank you again for your time and for your sharing all your experiences and knowledge. Before we end, I'd just like to add, if you'd like to leave any message for our TBC INTV, we are a young company, but we have very high goals, and we want to go global very soon. But we just started a few months ago.
Great.
And
fantastic.
Yeah. So any message for our team at TBC INTV?
Yeah, I would. And number one, you work for a great leader with Nadeem. So I've gotten to know him, and he's great. I would just for your team and for the audience, like to give one message, two messages if I could. Let me give two.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure, yeah.
Number one, we talked about crisis and volatility on this, right? And any kind, any industry, don't be afraid of it. Embrace it. Okay. Don't be afraid of it. Embrace it, because it is an opportunity for TBC in this case to disrupt. Okay. It's an opportunity to disrupt. Fantastic. So don't be afraid of it. Anticipate it. Don't expect the pandemic to end and then everything to go back to the way that it was. Expect it to continue to evolve and change. And I think TBC is in a terrific prime position to be at the forefront of change. So start anticipating and working on what could change after the pandemic, right?
Fantastic.
I think that would be time well spent. Number two, and we'll close with this one. Number two, think of leadership. If everybody here can get a leadership mindset, it's different than management. Management is paying attention to details, the processes, compliance, adhering to the laws. We've got to do all of that. Okay. But leadership is, and I gave somebody on LinkedIn this morning my Bret's definition of leadership, and you're not going to see it in a textbook anywhere, but you've heard it on TBC today. And that my definition of leadership is a great leader makes people feel good. Okay.
Absolutely.
So if everybody at TBC can make everybody else feel good, you got to do your job. You got to cover your bases, right? But if you can make your people feel good, each other, your colleagues, you've done well. And think about leadership as this. We've all got a smartphone, right? Everybody has one of these things. If you attempt to make a phone call with this beautiful piece of hardware and there's no SIM card inside of it, it doesn't matter how hard you attempt, it's not going to make that phone call. This SIM card and the software computer chip, this is what leadership is, right? Management is the piece of hardware. It's beautiful. It's really cool. But if you don't have the stuff inside of it, it's not going to work as intended. And then you're not going to be very happy with it. So think about leadership as the software and the management is the hardware. And you have to have both. If you just have leadership and a bunch of soft stuff, and you don't have a piece of hardware, it doesn't do you any good either. So you got to kind of look at both. And you may not read this in a textbook, but I learned this from a great person in the UK. His name's Rene Carroll, and we worked with him during time in Africa,
Mhm.
and he came in and he taught this concept of management leadership, and this mobile phone thing is my analogy, but it's really the same thing that originated from him. If you find a good idea, steal it and learn the concept and then share it with the world.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the point. And there's nothing wrong with that. Nobody on LinkedIn, for example, has a problem with doing that. But share it with the world. Don't hoard it for yourself and keep it. Get the word out there.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say.
And talking about sharing, I've experienced it so many times in my own life, Bret, that once you're sharing, sometimes you get to see things from another perspective, and you have an absolutely new idea because you're sharing it with others. So that's one of the benefits. Exactly. But a brilliant time we had with you, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners and viewers will benefit a lot from you. And I recommend everybody listening to connect with you and to keep in touch, because I've been enjoying your recent videos, Bret. And
thank you, Nadeem. Yeah.
And absolutely fantastic time. And thanks again for giving your time to us for TBCIN TV, Bret. And maybe
you're most welcome.
We have another go at it some other time.
Be happy to do that.
Great.
And I'd love to have you on the Packard network as well. So we'll make sure we make that arrangement too, Nadeem.
Sure,
yeah,
sure.
Great.
Anytime. Thanks, Bret.
Great.
Thank you.
Well,
thank
you betcha. Okay. Thanks very much, Nadeem. Okay. Bye-bye.